Welcome to episode 4 of the Ghetto Mantras Podcast. My name is Gevonchai, and I am the host of this show, your favorite homegirl. This is a podcast where the mantras might not be that ghetto, but I am. So here we are. I have with me Keys from Voss Visuals, and you will hear another voice, Dom from Hustle Responsibly, and we're going to get to it. So, week 4 or episode 4, um, this this one is kind of personal because it's kind of like really hit me in the head right now. My mantra, my affirmation, my belief right now is that self-care is not a trend. Like over the past couple of years, especially since COVID, like you've been saying everything self-care, everything mantras, everything this, and I am enough, and I am woman, and blah blah blah, right? And it's trendy. But self-care is like really not a trend right now. Again, we've talked. I have a 4-month-old at home. Hi, little Langston, and 2 other kids. It's a lot of kids. I always say that. It's a lot of kids. Here at home, and self care is like not front and center for me because I'm trying to get used to my new life, my new normal. Like things are very different than they have been the last, I don't know, 5 years of my life. So I'm trying to get used to some things. And I recently talked about, I think the last episode, about being sleep deprived. And like literally, I felt like I called my husband upstairs right away. I said, "Hey, something's going on. It's not postpartum depression or anything, but definitely the lack of sleep was like I thought I was sick." I called my husband up. We got some extra help in the house another day of the week. I called my therapist. I talked to him. And I said, "Hey, man, make sure I'm not going through no type of psychosis or nothing." He's like, "Girl, you are fine. You are totally fine. You're just not getting enough sleep." Um, and I'll talk to a couple of friends, and I've been workshopping again because I always workshop before I come talk to you all. Like, well, like what's going on? I think that like mantras and affirmations, like it's all a good game, and especially like as a black woman, I'll say, "I'm not putting that on my plate," or I'll put in an email quick. "I don't have the capacity for this." But in real life, I keep trying to have the capacity for everything. I keep trying to like do everything. I keep trying to keep my house super clean and cook all the meals and host and do all of the things over the holidays. And I'm literally like at capacity. I cannot do it. Specifically, what got me into my last spot of like, oh no, I got to get myself together was my 4-month old is 4 month sleep regression, and I'm putting him down at like 8 o'clock, and then I'm trying to go clean up and do other things and play Connect Four with my kids and make sure the 15 almost 16-year-old is doing his homework and just like again host holidays. And I literally said when I was doing that, I was going to bed at like 11 o'clock. But if you know anything about a baby, he's waking up 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 6 o'clock. And instead of me going down when he went down and getting 10 hours of broken sleep, now I'm getting like 6 or 7 hours of broken sleep. Hang it up. Can't do it. I remember my boss. Y'all know, I wonder if my boss sneak and watch this show. If you do, hey girl, I think she might sneak and watch and do different ones. We'll see. But I never forget one of my bosses. I never forget her telling us like people always talk about balance and like I'm balancing home and work and like none of that shit works for real. You have to make things work in harmony. You can't it's like if you balancing things, something is always going to be like this, right? And I have this plate now where it involves a new baby, and the way that I like to mother, I'm like all in, like all my chips on the table. I'm like dying at the cross every day. How can I be a better mother? How can I, whatever, and not actually taking stuff off my plate led me to having an emergency talk with the therapist, calling my other homegirl. Shout out to my homegirl. She know who she is. Calling her immediately the next morning. And my husband getting a not so pleasant text from me that he had to run up the steps, child, and check on me. Because I say I'm gonna take stuff off my plate and didn't. And that's why, I come back to self-care is not a trend. So here we are on this podcast. Before we started this, like I'm doing all my own videos, editing, graphics with a little bit of help. Shout out to the JLH Fund, because Drew and Lauren Holiday, shout out to them. They allowed me to be able to get some help with my business and really like be able to add some infrastructure. But before, I was doing everything by myself. And now, like, I'm returning back to Ghetto Mantras from being on maternity, and I literally cannot do it. And for me being able to do this show, being able to express myself, like, this is a part of self-care for me. Me just being able to be a human being. I'm not a mom right now. Like, the kid is downstairs in the basement with his caregiver. My other kids are, doing their own thing. My husband's doing this thing. My dog is doing this thing. This time right now is for me, because it's not a trend. Like, I literally had to make sure, what practice do I have to build myself up to make sure that I'm okay and I'm not having emergency calls with people. What am I actually taking off my plate? My Christmas did not look how I wanted it to look because I had to take some things off my plate. I'm like Clark Griswold for Christmas. There's 2 trees in my house. One is all the way up to the ceiling, as high as I can get it. I'm normally hosting and cooking, and cut the show. Can't do it, right? So for me, the reason why I'm bringing this up, because if you're like me, you only got about 15 minutes to listen to this show, this podcast, watch this show. You are a master at multitasking, and you are somebody who says you're going to take things off your plate, but you didn't. Right? And so I'm telling myself that self-care is not a trend for us. On whatever time we need to carve out and whatever help we need to get, we need to do it in order to still be okay and do the things that we are setting out to do. So, I got my 2 folks here, Keith and Dom. I'm going to turn to them. As I just did my little rant, I'm going to turn to them and see what they say, especially from like the male perspective, like self-care being a trend. What's that looking like for you now? Why would you start laughing?
Because it's I would say my relationship with certain self-care stuff is different.
What is self-care though, like for you?
Just chilling.
Yeah, having time. Me too, actually. Yeah. Having time where I'm not worried about nobody else. Stillness. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's self-care is not like, oh, I'm doing my face mask. Like, and I'm getting my nails done. And no. Self-care for me, and it changes seasonally for me. Most of the time is me getting time to myself. In the summertime is me taking a book and going to read it on the porch before everybody wake up. Like, that's my time. Right now in this season is doing this podcast. This is self-care for me, because I'm doing something for me, not the mother, not the work person, this is for me. So for you.
Yeah, Keith said it, stillness, not really having like a deliverable,
Mm-hmm.
But I do also understand that, like, that can also be harmful if you spend too much time in like isolation and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like picking up a new hobby.
Mm-hmm.
Recently this is super random.
What?
But recently I just started like brewing my own lemonade.
Really?
Yeah.
How do you do, like, okay, we'll talk offline, but like people brew their own like lemonade.
Well, I don't know if brew was the right thing to
but
say.
You make your own lemonade. So you squeezing lemonade.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just I don't even know what really motivated me to do that, but I was just like, yeah, let me just try.
My question is, how much sugar you putting in there?
I just got a text from somebody who was like looking to get and they asked me the same thing, and I'm like, damn, I kind of eyeball it a little bit.
What you saying? To the good Lord allows.
But I try to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. You making lemonade, Don? Yeah, when definitely. You gonna bring some to work?
I'm gonna bring some. Tracy asked for some. She wanted some.
Shout out to Tracy.
Yeah, that's the homie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's the main thing. Not having a deliverable. Oh, you asked about the sugar. Like 2 cups and a little bit. Eyeball a little bit.
Not having a deliverable is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's it for me. I think I spend a lot of time in my own head. So like somebody that a place where I can just like talk without necessarily sometimes this sounds selfish, but like I don't need a response all the time. Or if you're listening without feeling like you have to respond, like I'm not necessarily asking for advice. I just needed a soundboard to get some ideas out. It's
I feel
helpful.
like, oh God, I need that a lot. Yeah.
But I also wanted to I wanted to ask a question. So kind of getting off of me a little bit,
Okay.
but as a black woman,
Yeah.
right?
I'm
A
black.
couple of years ago, thank you. A couple of years ago, I got introduced to this concept of intersectionality. And when you talked about self-care is not a trend, and I look at like how the past couple of years, especially like COVID and beyond, the monetization of like your health and wellness, right? And like I think oftentimes we already are in a position where there's a lot of profit that's built on the pain of people of color, specifically black people, specifically black women. And so I just maybe wanted to kick it back to you to like how do you deal with that?
You know what? That's another episode. I have it written down.
Okay.
So this is a preview about like rage baiting. And I think that people rely on a lot of people, or not a lot of people. I have seen people rely on the rage of black women to build their business. And it's interesting, right? Because I've monetized wellness, I would say, but not in a I don't have the language. Not in a way where I'm hurting other people. I don't have better language, but like, yeah, you can buy right now crew necks. You can buy mantra books. You can buy like a lot of self-care things from me. But like this conversation is costing you nothing. Except for a subscribe. So help us build our channel, YouTube, subscribe on YouTube and Spotify. Thank you. But I don't like the conversation like this. We're not monetizing this. This is for anybody that has a like mind, like me, and just needs somebody to listen to and kind of talk to a little bit. Because I'm sure if you listening to us, you're talking to yourself too. So I think I answered the question. How do I deal with people monetizing wellness? Yeah. Ooh, it's been a thing. Like I said, I've done it, but I think I try to do it in a way where it's not harmful for people. Cause even think about the how we did Good Time with the Girls. And people have to pay because I gotta pay. If I gotta pay for something, I gotta charge people. But if I don't have to pay, I'm not charging nobody nothing. I'm not charging. It's like charging to spread the gospel. It's like church almost. you know, I don't think people should charge for church. But the church gotta have a building. You gotta have a place to go. And the pastor gotta be sustained because, you know. So that's a question. I might have to answer that some more on another episode because I got to think about that. You know, it's at me next time. At me next time. But yeah, I think that's where I'm at. Where we at on time? Okay. So I think I'm a pull us back to end this episode and to say self-care is not a trend. Make sure that, especially if you are in my shoes, you only got 15 minutes to listen to a podcast. That you are doing enough things to take care of yourself, to love yourself, to pour into yourself, because your wellness isn't a trend. It's like something we're going to need for the rest of our lives, and we might as well start now. So that's that. Thank you for listening, and talk next time. Oh, my social. Lord have mercy. Follow me on all social media, Ghetto Mantras on Facebook and Ghetto Mantras on Instagram, Ghetto Mantras on TikTok, Ghetto Mantras on YouTube, Ghetto Mantras on Spotify. Y'all know what that we didn't get to talk about? I can't wait for everybody to see the cover art. I'm going to show y'all too today. Oh, but I showed you, Keys. But I ain't showed you. Okay, so that's that. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.